Hell's Kitchen has never been short on villains. You've had the ones who were just loud, the ones who were just lazy, the ones who thought the kitchen was a stage and everyone else was background noise. Like Jason Underwood in season 4, a guy who managed to make viewers turn on him almost instantly, not because of a single bad service, but because of the way he carried himself. Early on, he made openly sexist remarks about the women's team, and it didn't come off like competitive trash talk, it came off like contempt.
Embarrassed male chefs all over the world today. Well, it's on now. There's no way in hell I'm losing to girls again.
That kind of energy poisons a season fast, and audiences don't forget it. Jason didn't last long, but the damage to his reputation was immediate. He became a speed run villain, in and out, but permanently stamped in people's memory as someone they were glad to see gone. Then you've got Frank Calla from season 15, who didn't just create drama inside the show, he created fallout outside of it. Frank's comments about women weren't treated as reality TV heat. They became a real world issue.
She only won because I lost. That's not a winner. That's not a winner. You already showed that you were weak, Amanda. You really don't deserve my help. You need to fail. I wouldn't even waste my time destroying you if you were my Marine. I'd just fucking send you home.
After his elimination, he posted a public apology, and reports at the time noted the Marine Corps was reviewing the situation because he was an active duty Marine. That's a rare moment where villain behavior stops being a TV storyline and becomes a career problem. And of course, Tiffany Johnson in season 10, the villain archetype that frustrates people in a different way. Not the I'm scary villain, the I don't care villain. Viewers remember her for the kind of attitude that makes teammates feel like they're dragging dead weight through service.
Cut that part off.
Who gives a shit?
I really don't like kids at all.
And the audience feels that same irritation through the screen. Her own words in the show's edit turned her into one of those contestants where people weren't even angry anymore. They were just done. So yes, Hell's Kitchen has had villains, but then there's the one name fans bring up like it's the final boss. Because while other villains had moments, Elise turned it into a whole identity.
You have a problem with your ego. You don't like taking orders. It's your way or the highway.
She first walked into Hell's Kitchen in season 9 and later returned in season 17. All stars. By then, her name was widely known as Elise Wims and later Elise Harris after her marriage.
My positivity level is extremely high, and I don't have any patience.
Whoever watched her seasons live, you already know. Elise wasn't just difficult. She was a constant pressure point, the kind of contestant who makes every challenge feel like it has a second competition running underneath it. The cooking and the conflict. What made Elise different wasn't just that she argued, it's that she argued in a way that changed the oxygen in the room.
Let the games begin. I'm coming for you, so you better bring all that shit every fucking day. I don't need no friends. I got plenty of friends at home, and I can have more friends when I win this $250,000.
Some contestants get into fights and then reset. Elise didn't reset. The tension followed her from station to station, from dorm to dorm, from team meeting to elimination ceremony. In season 9, Elise went deep. 3rd place overall, and which is part of why she became so legendary as a villain, because usually the most disliked people get cut before they can dominate the narrative.
Your scallops came back more than twice, and I offered to help you on the fish station because you can't cook fish.
Elise didn't. She stayed again and again, and that's where the viewer flashbacks come from. The sense of how is she still here, mixed with oh no, she's still here. Gordon Ramsay's entire format is built around one brutal truth. Even great cooks can lose if they can't operate inside a brigade, and Elise's reputation wasn't built on being incapable in the kitchen. It was built on the feeling that she was incapable of being a teammate. Over and over, Elise ended up in the same pattern. Friction with the team conflict during service blame spreading like smoke, and Elise standing at the center of it, somehow surviving the fallout. It's why she became infamous for nominations. On record, Elise was nominated repeatedly in season 9, 7 times, which helped cement her as a contestant who was constantly on the edge, constantly controversial, and constantly one vote away from going home, yet never quite leaving when people wanted her out.
You ask my team who they'd rather see leave between me and Carrie, I'm sure the answer will be Carrie.
That won't go away factor is villain fuel, because the audience doesn't just dislike a villain, they start keeping score. Every season has rivalries, but Elise didn't just have one feud, she had an orbit of them. Most viewers immediately associate season 9 Elise with a constant cycle of conflict, teammates frustrated, voices raised, alliances forming and breaking, and Elise always pushing the temperature higher.
Take these to those tables and apologize. now!
I honestly wish the floor would open up and just swallow me up.
Key is that it wasn't limited to one enemy. When you're fighting one person, viewers can rationalize it. When you're fighting everyone, it starts to look like you're the problem, and that's what made Elise's run feel so exhausting for people watching. It wasn't an arc, it was an atmosphere. A lot of Hell's Kitchen contestants get eliminated because the kitchen performance is clear. Elise was different because her eliminations rarely felt clean. They felt like strategy. She learned how to frame herself not just as a cook, but as a competitor who could argue her case, shift attention, and survive situations where the social vote seemed stacked against her. That's why she became such a lightning rod online. Viewers weren't just reacting to her personality, they were reacting to the sense that she could bend the season around herself. And the deeper she went, the louder that reaction got. By the time season 17, All Stars started, Elise didn't walk in as another contestant. She walked in as a reputation, and she didn't exactly try to soften it. Season 17 is where Elise became something rare, a villain who returns and somehow manages to make people say, oh yeah, this is exactly what I remember.
She runs around the kitchen like a chicken with her head cut off, breathing and all that. I'm frustrated with Carrie. I hate her.
And crucially, the cast knew what she was. All Stars wasn't a room full of rookies getting surprised by Elise's intensity. These were people with experience, many of them black jackets in their own seasons. And even then, Elise still created division. That's what separates villain of the season from villain of the franchise. In a normal season, a bad moment can be framed as nerves. In All Stars, bad moments feel like regression. And Elise had moments in season 17 where pressure and emotion clearly took over. The audience reaction wasn't just she messed up, it was she's doing this again. Because season 17 wasn't supposed to be her redemption tour. It was the sequel where everyone's patience is shorter. And the more visible her conflict became, especially as tension grew with teammates like Michelle Tribble.
Why is this happening? I don't know.
Get used to this face!
Your crying face?
The more season 17 turned into a collision course. Elise versus The Room. Elise ultimately finished 7th place in season 17, meaning she didn't reach the final stretch, but she still lasted long enough to leave that familiar mark. Arguments, frustration, and that constant feeling of volatility. Here's the real reason Elise gets the crown. She didn't just have villain moments, she had villain momentum. Other villains flame out quickly. Elise stayed long enough across 2 separate seasons to let people build a full emotional history with her. Viewers remember the tension during services, the feeling that teamwork around her was impossible.
She fights with everyone.
I haven't fought with anybody in the kitchen except—
You fight every day with people in the kitchen.
That's a lie.
The way conflict seemed to follow her even when the kitchen needed focus, and the way she could shift from confident to furious to devastated in a single episode. That emotional whiplash is what makes people say flashbacks. Because watching Elise isn't like watching a bad cook spiral, it's like watching a social grenade roll across the pass. And when Elise finally leaves a season, it rarely feels like a normal elimination. It feels like a storm clearing. Even her identity carries the franchise timeline. Fans often refer to her as Elise Wims from her original run, and Elise Harris later, reflecting her name after marriage. And the fact she returned in season 17 with that already iconic reputation. And to this day, people still argue about her in the exact same way they argued while the episodes were airing. Some say she was unfairly targeted, others say she sabotaged the team environment, some say she was kept around because she was TV gold, others say her cooking was strong enough that she earned her place. The fact those arguments never end is the point, because the biggest villain isn't the one who was hated in the moment, it's the one who stays controversial forever. Jason Underwood had a short run that made people recoil. Frank Calla crossed a line so hard it sparked real-world consequences and public apology. Tiffany Johnson became unforgettable because apathy in Hell's Kitchen feels like betrayal. But Elise? Elise didn't just irritate viewers. She defined entire stretches of 2 seasons, season 9 and season 17, by sheer force of personality.
Was I an individual?
One time,
Elise?
shut up!
It was not one
Shut
time.
up for 5 seconds!
Conflict and survival, and whether people remember her as Elise Wims or Elise Harris, the reaction is usually the same: a deep breath, a flashback, and one thought: oh no, not her again.